I think people don't realize how much brands fake it till they make it. And that's, you know, even for someone like me, when I started, for the first 2 years, my mom was doing all of our shipping.
Your mom?
And she was working
Georgia,
at the local
right?
high school. Right.
Come on.
And so like Neiman's or Saks would call, and my mom would say, you know, Glen Academy, and they were like, is this Tibi? And she was like, yes, this is
She's
Tibi.
working at the school.
And I think people just don't realize, like, if you're buying from a new designer, it could have been shipped from their bathtub. There's a lot of good smoke and mirrors there.
Amy Smilovic, what's your drink?
This is my famous vodka and olive special.
Vodka straight up with just a little...
Yeah, little
hint.
splash of olive juice and 1 olive, sometimes 4 or 5, depending.
Sometimes 4, but has
Yes.
this evolved over the years for you?
Actually, I found out a little late in life that I'm basically allergic to everything else but straight vodka. Yes, and
to alcohol?
painful times in college, sorting through all that.
Right, so now you figured out vodka's safe.
Vodka's totally safe.
And olives are safe.
And
clearly.
olives.
What does this drink say about you?
It's quite clean, easy,
Yeah.
yeah, simple, classic.
Those are just about the same words you use to describe your clothing line.
Exactly.
Which is
Yeah, I don't think I'd drink like a Tai or something with a
a
like
Mai Tai or like a fancy Cosmo or
no
something.
parasols
Not
or
you.
anything
No
like
parasols.
that. No parasols.
Amy, you're the founder and creative director of Tibi,
Yeah.
which is a women's clothing brand. What have you done in the last couple decades?
Oh my gosh, wow. Started a family. I put that first, honestly, but started a company 20 years ago in Hong Kong and moved it to New York in 2000. It was a contemporary line that we evolved into a young designer collection in 2010. And we're really sold all over the world now and have our own e-commerce and
Yeah.
it's been a crazy
ride.
20 years. And this industry is like dog years, so it's been 140 years now, and things are going well.
Full disclosure, you and I have known each other for a while.
So, 15, well, no.
Can't be that long. No, like 10 years. 10 years.
At least,
Our
yeah.
sons were in school together.
6-year-old birthday party then?
Yeah,
Like,
I think
yes,
so.
yes.
That's how we met. I have to ask you how you got here, and I know a little bit of the story. And it goes back to Hong Kong.
Started the company in Hong Kong.
1997?
Yes.
First of all, how do you end up in Hong Kong?
You know, my husband and I both worked for American Express, and he got transferred. And I had never lived overseas, and he's Czechoslovakian, and he had lived overseas for Amex most of his life. And I didn't even have a passport until I met him. I knew that I was going to start a company.
How do you know that?
Because I'd always wanted, I was that creepy little kid who was just, you know, selling lemonade. I didn't just babysit, I had a babysitting corporation. I would even like grab my neighbor's trash and I would polish it up and I would resell it to them. And they're like, this looks familiar, like, it's interesting. I think we had that ashtray. Yeah.
Down
so,
in
Georgia.
Right?
Yes.
You're a Southern girl.
I'm a Southern girl.
And so you had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit as a child.
Always, always. And I just, you know, I didn't know that it would be a clothing company that I would end up with, but I knew I wanted my own business.
So what was the vision sitting in Hong Kong that, what were you going to do? Were you going to, was it going to be a fashion line? What was it going to be?
The very first vision was I was going to have about 12 items of clothing made, and it was going to be kind of that Gwyneth Paltrow meets Armani meets Michael Kors. This is the late 90s, meets Helmut Lang. And it was going to be clean, minimal. And you could walk in then, and you, as a woman, you could shop there and you could try on a sample, and then you could order it in any of my luxury fabrications.
Okay.
And there I met a 22-year-old named Octavia. She said, you know, what are you doing in Hong Kong? And I said, I just started a clothing company yesterday. And she said, well, what are you doing this afternoon? I said, I'm going to my new factory. Would you like to go with me? So on the way to the factory, we were like, well, you know, what if we started a line of little dresses and skirts?
Right.
And I thought, you know, I just started a company yesterday. I suppose I could start another one today, right? Because that makes sense. But we did, and by the time we got to the factory, we had sketched up 2 little dresses, a skirt and a pair of pants. And I was like, well, if you're making this other stuff for me, let's just throw this in there too. And we got these batik fabrics, and we made it up, and we named it Tibi after her grandmother.
After Octavia's grandmother.
After Octavia's grandmother, we named it Tibi, and because my grandparents, Betty and Bernice, did not make the cut.
You know,
No.
now you would have a clothing line called Betty or Bernice if you'd gone with your grandma.
Exactly.
Got it.
And I don't think we'd be here, and I'd be at a
Tibi's
bank
pretty good
somewhere
name.
working.
Tibi
was a great name.
How do you have the money to do all of this?
Well, it didn't take a lot because literally, if you want to talk dollars and cents, I had $30,000 saved up from American Express. She had $30,000, and that was what we used to seed it. And we kind of did things by the seat of our pants. And 4,000 pieces of clothing later, delivered to our house. Clothing was just coming out of cabinets. I had all the pants stored in the bathtub.
In the bathtub?
Yeah, it was a lot. You know, and in 2 or 3 shows, we'd basically covered our cost of goods. And then all of a sudden, the expats started wearing them back home to London, back home to the United States.
So people are seeing your work.
They're seeing it, and then I'm getting calls from stores that are like, oh, we're in Nantucket, and this woman came in wearing this dress, and I'm interested in carrying the line. And I thought, well, you know, this is an opportunity. Let's take the clothing to the United States and see if we can make this work. And so I showed up at JFK with 2 massive suitcases filled with clothing.
And now, fast forward all these years, did you have any clue that you'd be sitting? I think a couple years ago you guys had $45 million in sales.
Yeah.
I don't know what your number is now, but
yeah.
It's pretty big.
I think in the beginning, I think 20 years ago I was like, I'm going to be drinking with Cate Snow. But I think that kind of cockiness and belief in what you're doing was really needed, because as an entrepreneur, you've got to believe in what you have to believe because it's so much work, and to put that much work into it, you have to believe that you're going somewhere with it.
What has been the biggest obstacle for you?
I think the biggest obstacle has been, I think it's just really having the complete self-confidence of what you're doing is the right direction, and I have it now. I really do, and that feels amazing, and my designer does as well.
I feel pretty clueless when it comes to fashion, honestly, and I think probably a lot of women feel this way.
Right.
I watch the runway shows. I was looking at pictures of yours,
right,
and I go, it looks great on that model, but I don't quite get it. So what is the biggest kind of inside secret of the fashion industry that you can give us?
Oh my gosh. I really can, the secret that I can tell you is the really great ones are really normal.
The great designers.
Yeah, and all that craziness that you see, it's kind of like really good theater.
It's a show.
Yeah, and
I knew it!
My last night in Paris, it was with this amazing Italian woman, Sylvia. She's the head woman at Intermix. Her husband is head of sales for Gucci, and my other friend, Sarah Rudson, and then Miriam Schaefer, the crazy handbag designer. She was at Balenciaga for 10 years. And we all just got together, and we were at my apartment in Paris, and we were eating falafel. And that was like jeans and falafel.
Right.
And all this fashion going on around us in the parties. And it was really good. It's really delicious.
So
and
you guys
that's what we do.
You don't sit around and dress up in the runway outfits.
We just eat really good falafel and have really good friends that we've worked with for a long time and talk. And
do you have an MBA?
No.
No.
No. But I'm a crazy reader of books, and I'm constantly.
Did you have to learn the business side?
I did, but I've been learning it since I was at American Express. I remember my first week at American Express, we had this meeting, and I turned around to my boss at the time, and I was like, what's an ROI? And she's like, it's a return on investment. Go get some business books now. And I was like, okay, noted.
Yeah, that seems like a universal trait of people who are successful, is the willingness to keep learning.
Keep learning.
And to make mistakes.
Yes, you have to. You have to make mistakes and then learn from them.
What would you say to people thinking about launching a business?
You take it step by step, and you don't need to plan for your IPO when you haven't even made your product. And I think that's where a lot of people go off the rails as they get in that spin cycle.
They're thinking so far ahead that they can't tackle step 1, 2, 3.
Make it, sell it. If you don't, go back, retool it. And that is when students come in and they want to interview me and get mentoring advice. They're like, when I do my IPO, and I'm like, really? Because I think you're still in college and you may not be there yet. So,
all right. Step 1, just do it.
Step 1, step 2, step 3, day by day. And I really think that people underrate how important experience is. Go and learn from these companies. And there's no way I would be in business today if I hadn't learned what I did from Ogilvy, Mather, and from American Express. It was really invaluable.
You just mentioned, so that was advertising.
That was advertising.
You did that before American Express.
Yeah. And that really created this kind of smoke and mirrors when I started, because when I started my clothing line, it went right along with a little direct mail campaign. And so the stores, I think, were like, well, you must be very established and put together. If you have a direct mail campaign, you must be tried and true. And I was like, sure. You don't need to know that the clothing's stored in my bathtub. I think people don't realize how much brands fake it till they make it. And that's, even for someone like me, when I started, for the first 2 years, my mom was doing all of our shipping.
Your mom?
And she was working
Georgia,
at the local
right?
high school. Right.
Come on.
And so like Neiman's or Saks would call, and my mom would say, Glen Academy, and they were like, this is Tibi? And she was like, yes, this is
She's
Tibi.
working at the school.
And I think people just don't realize, like, if you're buying from a new designer, it could have been shipped from their bathtub. There's like really good, so it really is, there's a lot of good smoke and mirrors there.
Yeah,
so
nobody needed to know that.
Not at all.
But it's a great story now.
Yeah.
Do you see the whole business changing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know my business is changing fundamentally because of digital, because of blogging, because of social media, and I imagine it's got to be the same in fashion.
When I started out in business, honestly, for the first 13 years, business was exactly as it probably had been for the last 30 years before that. And then all of a sudden, it's really been the last 10 years that the entire business is 100% different than it was.
What disrupted it so much?
E-commerce. Technology. One of the biggest things about Tibi is my husband and I own the company. We don't take money from anyone else. I have no outside funding partners.
No investors.
No. So what that means is every dollar that we put into the company, we've got to figure out how that's going to bring back $2 or $3.
But that also means that nobody's looking over your shoulder, I assume, and saying, hey, I'm an investor, I don't want you to do that. Does that limit how big you can get because you don't have
You know what? I mean,
investors?
yes, for sure. It limits it, but I also think that when you grow organically like that, and every dollar that goes in has to have a return on that investment, I think it makes you really, really smart about where you spend your money.
How do you define yourself? Businesswoman, entrepreneur, fashionista, designer?
Mom, designer, entrepreneur, and wife. And I put wife last just because I work with my husband every day. Like, oh my God, I love him, but we're together 24/7. So that's a given.
I'm not sure he's going to love the being fourth place, but okay.
Yeah.
This is so fun. Thank you.
Cheers.
So much. Cheers.
Thank you.
This is great.